You may not be tired because you have too much to do. You may be tired because too many people have learned they can enter your day without asking what it costs you. They call when they are anxious. They message when they are bored. They bring you a problem they have repeated 10 times, then leave you carrying the weight of it long after the conversation ends. And because you are kind, reliable, or afraid of seeming cold, you answer, you listen, you explain. You rearrange your attention before you have even asked whether you have any attention left to give. At first, it can feel like generosity. You are the person who shows up. You are the person who understands. You are the person who does not abandon anyone when things become difficult. But there is a quiet point where generosity changes shape. It becomes permanent access. It becomes the expectation that your peace is available whenever someone else is restless. That is not what kindness was meant to be. Kindness is a choice. Availability without limit is often a habit, and habits can slowly make a person disappear from his own life. The Stoic question is not whether you should become distant, hard, or indifferent. The question is simpler. What belongs to your choice, and what have you been carrying because another person placed it in your hands? You can care about someone without becoming responsible for every feeling they have. You can be helpful without becoming permanently reachable. You can love people without placing your entire inner life on an open table for anyone who arrives in a crisis. This video is about learning that difference, not so you can make people miss you, not so you can appear more valuable, not so you can win a strange social game by becoming unavailable on purpose. It is about becoming available by choice instead of by pressure. Because the person who is always on call eventually begins to feel that his own needs are an interruption. And once you believe that, every request starts to sound more important than your own life. Most people do not decide one morning to become emotionally exhausted. They enter it through small agreements. You answer one late message because it seems important. You take one long call because the other person is going through something. You cancel one quiet evening because someone says they need you. None of these choices is automatically wrong. The problem begins when every exception becomes your role. Soon, people do not ask whether you have space. They assume you will make space. They do not bring a problem to you because you offered once. They bring it because you have become the place where they unload it. And you may help build that pattern without meaning to. Every fast reply teaches people that urgency is the way to reach you. Every long explanation teaches them that your no can be negotiated. Every time you postpone yourself to regulate someone else's emotions, you teach both of you that your inner life comes second. This is not a reason to blame yourself. It is a reason to become honest. There is a difference between being dependable and being absorbent. A dependable person keeps his word. An absorbent person takes in whatever other people release, whether it is fair, useful, or his to hold. One creates trust, the other creates depletion. Notice the roles you have accepted without naming them. The emergency contact, the unpaid therapist, the peacekeeper, the person who fixes the plan, softens the conflict, hears every complaint, or makes every silence comfortable. These roles can make you feel needed, but being needed is not always the same as being valued. Sometimes it is only evidence that you have made yourself easier to use than to know. The aim is not to punish people for coming to you. The aim is to stop offering access that you cannot sustain with dignity. Why is it so hard to become less available? Usually the difficulty is not scheduling, it is emotional. For some people, saying yes feels safer than disappointing anyone. A quick yes ends the tension. A long reply prevents the fear that someone will think you are selfish. A rushed rescue gives you a brief feeling of usefulness, but the relief is expensive. You avoid a few seconds of discomfort and purchase hours of resentment. You prevent one person's disappointment and create your own exhaustion. You keep the connection calm on the surface while quietly teaching yourself that your boundaries are dangerous. This is why over-availability often hides behind good intentions. The person is not always trying to impress anyone. He may simply be trying to avoid the feeling that comes after a no. The Stoic practice here is not dramatic. It begins with the pause between a request and your answer. That pause is where freedom returns. Before you reply, ask 3 questions. Do I have the capacity for this? Is this actually mine to solve? What will this cost me after the conversation is over? These questions are not selfish. They are responsible. A person who never measures his capacity eventually gives from resentment, fatigue, or fear. That kind of giving does not create a peaceful life. You do not need to justify every pause. You do not need to present a courtroom case for needing an evening alone. You do not need a dramatic reason to protect your attention. Sometimes the honest answer is simply, "I cannot take this on right now." That sentence is not cruel. It is clear. Many people confuse a boundary with abandonment because they have only seen two extremes. One extreme is total access. You respond immediately. You carry the emotional weight. You become available even when you are depleted. The other extreme is cold withdrawal. You disappear, punish, ignore, or act as if needing anyone is weakness. Neither extreme is wisdom. The stronger path is compassion with limits. You can say, "I care about you, and I cannot have this conversation tonight." You can say, "I hear that you are upset, and I am not the person who can decide this for you." You can say, "I want the best for you, and I will not keep repeating this argument." The point is not to find the perfect sentence. The point is to stop speaking as though your boundary needs the other person's approval before it becomes real. Stoic discipline does not ask you to stop caring. It asks you to care without surrendering your judgment. Another person's urgency can be real, but it still does not automatically become your obligation. There are situations where someone truly needs immediate help. Use judgment. Real emergencies are not the same as a familiar pattern of panic, complaint, conflict, or indecision that has been handed to you again and again. When you learn to see the difference, you stop treating every emotional demand as a fire, and that changes the quality of your help. You can be present because you choose to be present, not because guilt has cornered you. Not all draining relationships look dramatic. Some are built through small, ordinary forms of access. The first is instant access. This is the expectation that you must respond as soon as a message arrives, as though another person's impatience is proof that your time no longer belongs to you. The second is emotional access. This is when someone regularly brings you their storms, but shows little curiosity about what those storms cost you. They want relief, not connection. They want a container, not a relationship. The third is decision access. This is when another person repeatedly asks you to choose, fix, reassure, interpret, or take responsibility for a life they are unwilling to direct themselves. Each form can look harmless by itself. Together, they make your mind feel occupied, even when you are alone. You replay conversations, you anticipate requests, you check whether someone will be offended. You carry unresolved pressure that was never yours to begin with. This is what it means to give emotional access without limits. Your body may be in your room, but your attention is still living inside someone else's needs. The answer is not to become suspicious of everyone. It is to become precise. Who receives immediate access to you? Who receives your deepest attention? Who asks for advice but never takes responsibility? Who respects a limit the first time, and who treats your limit as the start of a negotiation? You do not have to make a dramatic announcement. You only have to notice the pattern and begin responding differently. The most useful boundary often happens before the conversation begins. Before answering, estimate the price. Not the price in money. The price in focus, sleep, energy, patience, and self-respect. Will this conversation leave you clearer, or will it pull you into the same circular story? Are you helping a person act or helping them avoid action for another night? Is your yes an expression of care or an attempt to keep the peace by sacrificing your own? You cannot make a good decision about availability when you pretend every request costs the same. Some people need 5 minutes. Some need a practical favor. Some need you to listen once. Others take an entire evening and leave you feeling guilty for wanting to go. The price matters because attention is a part of your life. When you give it away carelessly, you are not merely losing time. You are training yourself to believe that your own work, rest, and solitude are less real than another person's immediate demand. Try a simple practice for 1 week. Do not answer emotional requests immediately unless there is a genuine emergency. Give yourself enough time to ask whether you are choosing the conversation or merely reacting to it. You may discover that some requests lose their urgency when you do not answer at once. You may discover that some people solve problems when they cannot hand them directly to you. You may discover that the guilt is loud, but it is not a command. The pause does not make you uncaring. It makes your care deliberate. If you want to change this pattern, do not begin with a speech. Begin with an audit. For the next 7 days, notice where your attention goes after you did not choose it. Write down the request, the person, how quickly you responded, and how you felt afterward. You are not building a case against anyone. You are looking for the places where your automatic yes has become stronger than your judgment. You may find that the drain does not come from one difficult person. It comes from a collection of small interruptions, a group chat you cannot ignore, a relative who calls only to complain, a friend who needs reassurance but never changes anything, a work contact who treats every preference as an emergency. The pattern becomes manageable when it becomes visible. Then choose one boundary small enough to keep. Perhaps you stop answering messages after a certain hour. Perhaps you return calls when you have chosen a time. Perhaps you give advice once, then refuse to repeat it. Perhaps you stop explaining why you need space. Do not announce a new identity. Practice one new behavior. A boundary becomes believable through consistency, not intensity. You do not need to sound severe. You need to become predictable to yourself. This is where self-respect grows, not through a dramatic confrontation, but through the quiet evidence that you can hear a request, feel the guilt, and still choose with clarity. Long explanations often keep the door open after you have decided to close it. You say you cannot talk, then offer 6 reasons. You say you need space, then apologize until the other person feels invited to decide whether your reason is acceptable. You say no, then soften it so much that no one can hear it. Clear language is not harsh language. Try sentences that are short enough to protect your decision. I am not available tonight. I cannot take this on. I have already shared what I think. I need to step away from this conversation. I hope you find a way through it. These sentences do not explain every feeling. They do not accuse. They do not promise that you will become permanently unavailable. They simply tell the truth about the present moment. Some people may not like that. Their reaction is not proof that your boundary is wrong. When someone is used to having unlimited access, a reasonable limit can feel like rejection. That feeling belongs to the adjustment, not necessarily to the truth of what you have done. You are not required to repair every discomfort that follows your clarity. This does not mean becoming indifferent to the impact you have. It means refusing to treat another adult's disappointment as evidence that you have committed harm. Say less. Stay calm. Do not turn a limit into a debate. The hardest part of becoming less available may come after you set the boundary. You may feel guilty in the quiet. You may imagine the other person's face. You may wonder whether you were too direct, too distant, too selfish, too unavailable. Guilt can feel like moral information, but not every guilty feeling is a sign that you have done something wrong. Sometimes it is simply the feeling of breaking an old agreement with yourself. I must be useful to be loved. I must respond to be safe. I must carry people so they do not leave. That agreement can be old and powerful. It can make a reasonable boundary feel dangerous even when nothing harmful has happened. When this feeling appears, do not rush back into the conversation to make it disappear. Sit with it long enough to ask what it is asking you to protect. Is it asking you to be kind? Or is it asking you to return to a role that has already made you tired? There is a difference. You can revisit a boundary later if you have genuinely acted unfairly. But do not revise your life from the first wave of discomfort. Let the emotion settle. Then decide from principle instead of panic. The person who can tolerate a little guilt without abandoning himself becomes much harder to control. Not because he is cold, because he is no longer willing to confuse discomfort with wrongdoing. The goal is not to make your life smaller. It is to make it yours again. When your attention is no longer permanently open, you begin to notice what has been waiting beneath the noise. Your work, your rest, your own questions. The relationships where care moves in both directions. The silence that makes you more patient instead of more isolated. You may find that the right people do not need unlimited access to remain close. They can respect a delayed answer. They can hear a no without treating it as betrayal. They can bring you a problem without placing the whole burden on your shoulders. And when a relationship cannot survive a reasonable limit, the limit did not destroy the relationship. It revealed what the relationship had been asking of you. This is not a call to disappear from people. It is a call to return to yourself before you offer yourself away. Be generous when you can. Be present when you choose. Be honest when you cannot. Your peace does not become selfish because you finally protect it. Your time does not become less loving because it has a boundary around it. And you do not become a worse person when you stop making your inner life available to every person who arrives with a demand. Choose your access with the same care you would choose your direction, because a life lived entirely in response to other people is not a peaceful life. It is a life constantly waiting to be interrupted. There is another distinction that can change the way you offer help. Support and rescue are not the same action. Support gives a person room to face what is theirs. It may offer attention, a practical suggestion, a ride, a meal, or a truthful conversation. But it leaves their responsibility where it belongs. Rescue quietly removes responsibility from them and places it inside you. You make the call they keep avoiding. You calm the conflict they keep creating. You answer the question they have already answered for themselves. You stay awake, carrying the consequence of a decision they will make tomorrow without you. Rescue can feel compassionate because it is active. It makes you feel necessary. It can also be a way of avoiding a difficult truth. This person may need to experience the weight of their own choices before anything changes. That does not mean you enjoy their pain. It means you stop treating their discomfort as proof that you must take over. Ask yourself what kind of help is actually being requested. Is this person asking for a witness, a practical resource, a brief piece of advice, or someone to remove the consequences of a pattern they do not intend to change? Your answer can be different for each situation. You might say, I can listen for 10 minutes, but I cannot solve this for you. You might say, I can help you look at the options, but I will not choose for you. You might say, I care about you, and I think you need support beyond what I can give. These are not empty phrases. They are a way of placing responsibility back in the hands of the person whose life it is. The Stoic view of agency is useful here. You can influence, encourage, and act with goodwill. You cannot live another person's decisions for them. The more you try, the more your own judgment becomes tangled with outcomes you do not control. When you stop rescuing, you may notice an uncomfortable silence. There is less urgency. There is less evidence that you are indispensable. But that silence can reveal something honest. A relationship that depends on your exhaustion is not asking for love. It is asking for a service. Choose support that you can offer freely. Refuse rescue that leaves you resentful. This is not withdrawal from care. It is care with a spine. One of the clearest ways to reclaim availability is to protect the beginning of your day. The first hour after you wake up is easily claimed by other people's needs. A message, an unresolved conflict, a request, a complaint, a piece of news that immediately turns your attention outward. When this becomes normal, you begin the day in response mode. Before you have decided what matters, someone else has decided what occupies your mind. You do not need a perfect morning routine to change this. You need one small period that is not open for negotiation. Use it to think, walk, read, train, write, prepare your work, or simply sit without immediately receiving the emotional weather of everyone around you. The activity matters less than the principle. Your mind should meet your own life before it meets everyone else's demand. This is not a rule about ignoring people. It is a rule about order. If a genuine emergency happens, respond with judgment. But do not let the possibility of an emergency turn every ordinary message into an emergency. Most things can wait long enough for you to become present in your own day. There is a deeper reason this practice matters. A person who begins every morning by reacting trains his nervous system to expect intrusion. A person who begins with chosen attention remembers that he has a direction. That direction may be modest. It might be making breakfast without a conversation on your screen. It might be 10 minutes of quiet before a demanding relative calls. It might be refusing to read a long message until you can meet it without irritation. Small, protected spaces change the tone of the whole day. They prove that your attention is not public property. And when you begin to experience that proof, it becomes easier to carry it into the afternoon, the evening, and the relationships that once felt impossible to limit. When you change your availability, people may notice. Some will ask if something is wrong. Some will become more urgent. Some will try to pull you back into the old pattern by reminding you of how much you used to do. Some may call your limit selfish because the old arrangement was convenient for them. Do not rush to make the adjustment painless for everyone else. You are allowed to let people experience the difference between constant access and chosen access. You are allowed to let a delayed response remain delayed. You are allowed to repeat the same boundary without adding a new explanation each time. This is where many people abandon a boundary too early. They expect others to understand immediately. When understanding does not arrive, they decide the boundary has failed. But a boundary is not a performance designed to receive approval. It is a decision about how you will participate. The people who value a real relationship may need time, but they can adjust. They may learn not to expect an answer instantly. They may learn to bring a problem with more responsibility. They may become more respectful because the relationship now has a clearer shape. Others may fade when the easy access disappears. That can hurt. Yet it also tells you something useful about the place you held in their life. Do not turn this into a test. Do not withdraw simply to see who chases you. That is another form of making your peace depend on other people's reactions. Instead, let your new availability be ordinary, quiet, consistent. You answer when you can. You decline when you cannot. You do not punish, chase, or prove. The right adjustment is not dramatic. It feels like a door that now has a handle on the inside too. For the next 30 days, try a more deliberate relationship with access. Choose 3 things that are not open by default. It could be your first hour of the morning, one evening each week, and the time you spend on meaningful work. Name them privately. Treat them as commitments, not vague preferences. Then choose 3 responses you will use when a request appears at the wrong time. Keep them short. I cannot do that today. I will get back to you when I have space. I have already said what I can offer. You may feel awkward at first because you are replacing a reflex with a decision. That awkwardness is part of the training. The goal is not to become unreachable. The goal is to make access intentional. There will be days when you choose to be fully present for someone. Let those days be generous. There will be days when you need to close the door, rest, and return to your own work. Let those days be honest. Over time, you may notice a new kind of confidence. Not the confidence of being admired for always showing up. The quieter confidence of knowing that you can hear another person's need without losing the ability to hear your own. That is emotional freedom in practice. It is the ability to be compassionate without becoming consumed, available without becoming owned, loving without becoming absent from your own life. One final reminder: a slower answer is not always a lesser answer. Sometimes a delayed reply is the only way to answer without resentment. Sometimes a quiet evening is what keeps you from turning every relationship into another burden. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is stop pretending you have endless capacity. You do not need to become hard to become clear. You do not need to make people earn every moment of warmth. You only need to stop offering your attention as though it has no value to you. Let your yes be real because it is chosen. Let your no be calm because it is honest. Let the people in your life meet the person you actually are, not the exhausted role you learn to perform. There is no virtue in being constantly interrupted. There is no moral prize for responding before you have understood what you feel. A life with boundaries is not a life without generosity. It is a life where generosity can survive. When you protect your energy, you are not withdrawing from love. You are refusing to build love on exhaustion. You are making room to show up with patience when it is truly needed, instead of arriving already empty because everyone had access to you first. You will not perform this perfectly. Some days you will answer too quickly. Some days you will explain too much. Notice it without shame and return to the pause. The practice is not to become flawless. The practice is to become awake before you give yourself away. If this reflection helped you protect your attention with more clarity, like the video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs this reminder.